Yo, 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 what's up? Going with the no green screen today. I was kind of in a hurry, had to run in here and get this thing set up. So this is how we're gonna roll today. Well, what's up everybody? K Creative here with Bamboo Solutions doing our SharePoint weekly newsletter roundup. So we're gonna go through the newsletter that came out this morning around 8 a.m.-ish and talk about some of the latest SharePoint news over the last 7 days, see what's been going on in the space. How you guys been doing? What's going on? What is new? Got some new widgets here. Check it out. They added a Spotify widget, so now I can actually show what it's playing in the background. Not that it's probably that easy to hear back there, but you know, got some new tools. It's fun stuff. So yeah, let's get started. If you're not familiar, this is our weekly newsletter roundup that we do every Friday. We send out a newsletter every week, rolls up all the SharePoint news. It really is all kinds of Microsoft news across the ecosystem of Microsoft products that may somehow touch SharePoint. Yeah, it's a good newsletter. It's pretty solid. So I've been told it's a really good one. So anyways, there's a link there in chat for you to register for that. I don't know why my screens are flashing. Are you guys seeing the flashing screens? It's weird. So there's the link to that. So check it out. So let's go ahead and get started though. Let's take a look at the newsletter and then we'll get rolling. Man, I must be having like some serious GPU issues here. I gotta figure that out. I'm gonna turn off this monitor and see if that helps at all. Does not look like it. Huh. Gotta figure that out. Encoding overloaded. Consider turning down video settings or using a faster encoding preset. That's what's going on. Well, that sucks. That means I gotta reboot the stream to do that. I don't know if I want to do that. Are you guys seeing screen flashing and stuff? What's happening on the stream itself? Bear with me here. I'm gonna check this out, get through some technical difficulties. I know we're like 10 minutes in already, but let's see. Of course, I have a Twitch ad I gotta watch before I can see what the quality looks like. And actually, it looks like it's just on my side. From what I can see, the screen on your side is not going crazy, but it is a little bit jumpy, looks like. All right, well, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep going. So sorry about all that technical difficulties. I'll get that figured out. We'll get some encoding format changes in place and make sure that's working better. All right, so here's the newsletter. Sharing my desktop, you can see the Bamboo Weekly Newsletter Roundup newsletter. Turn the tunes down just a hair. This is what we do. We go through it on Fridays together. We just do a little hanging out, do a little look at the latest news, and bada boom. At the top of the newsletter, there's a purple bar there. It talks about the stream that we're doing right now. So every Friday at noon, here we go. Come and join me. If you do get the newsletter, you can't see this up here yet, but there's a past issues link there. You can click on that and get to the past newsletters that have gone out if you want to kind of see what's been going on over the last few weeks as opposed to this week. So here we go. Top news stories. I did get a chance to go through this stuff a little bit ahead of time and prepare a little bit more, so that's good. So now I'm going to touch on some of this and not dive or dig into it too deep, but it's there in the newsletter in case you want to get into it deeper. So anyways, here we go. Top news stories, June 2019 cumulative updates for SharePoint, 2019, 16, 13, and 10. Look at that, 4 versions of SharePoint, huh? Anyways, those CUs are out there. There's some security updates going on. Here you go. Next post. I'm not going to go into each of those, obviously, but if you're in that space, in the admin space at SharePoint, go check that out. There are the details. So the SharePoint security fixes released with June 2019 PU and offered through Microsoft Update. This was an interesting post, really kind of digging into some of those security fixes in the various versions of SharePoint. So you get your 2010 suite, 13, 16, and 19, and then the online server there, Office Online. So some more details there for all you admins out there rocking the boat. All right, so new features added to Microsoft 365 Business Subscription. A couple of features here that they call out. Nothing too crazy amazing, but they did launch, what'd they get? Some conditional access added to it. To Microsoft 365 management, so now you can actually conditionally access or conditionally manage the access to your 365 resources, which could include some of your network assets. So you can set up policies now that it's required multi-factor authentication to access some of those network resources, or if you're in certain locations that aren't trusted, can't access network resources, etc., that kind of thing. So conditional access addition to the Microsoft 365 space. What else we got? Microsoft 365 Admin Center support additions. So reading through this earlier, it's really just kind of some updates to the Admin Center portal for the Microsoft 365 admins. And it really is around the support and the interaction with Microsoft to get support. So if you're an IT pro or an admin in your Microsoft 365 portal, this pertains to you. It does sort of talk about some of the new capabilities there for interacting with Microsoft to get support, to fix things and different things. There's something on there now to like schedule calls during certain times of the day so that Microsoft knows when they can call you to answer your requests. Customizing Microsoft Office 365. So there's some newer enhancements here or updates so that you can further customize the experience in Office 365, Microsoft 365. This allows you to do things like establish a logo up in the top bar, to specify colors and links and additional tiles in your app launcher. So, a bunch of customization options here just to kind of make 365 match or fit your corporate branding maybe a little closer. Yeah, good read through there if you haven't already configured some of that. Good stuff. The next post was on what does Microsoft's move mean for passwords? And so this was that FIDO certification that they went after with Microsoft Hello, that whole biometric authentication and authorization type of thing. So they announced that, when was that? It's been a little bit. I don't see a date on there. Back in 2020. So not too long ago, they reached this FIDO2 certification. And so this article talks about, what's that mean to the industry? Like, is the drive really going away from passwords? And God, we all hope so, right? And so he's here sort of promoting a discussion around, do you also believe that the future is passwordless? And I would agree. I think so. I think we are going to get to a biometric stage, and this is a good step in the direction, being that Microsoft or Windows is in so many homes and businesses, etc., that they do have a position to sort of drive that direction away from passwords, right? So good post there, good read, probably good topic for discussion. Make the most of data governance capabilities in Office 365. This is another top news story. And this one kind of talks about how all these organizations are adopting Office 365, but they're not really utilizing the data governance capabilities that are built in. And Microsoft spent a lot of time and effort, this article talks about, developing that tool set. And it's sort of a shame because we have ways through our administrative privileges to help enforce governance over our data, and we're not using it, we're not leveraging it. So a couple of things here they talk about, just talking about how people aren't using it, and they should. And then here we go, there's some just discussion around the kinds of data governance capabilities that are in the admin section. So you've got the retention policies you can establish. You can sort of, here you're just mentioning that you should probably have this discussion internally as an organization, obviously, before you get there. But what you should do is identify so that your employees and your organizational members understand which collaboration spaces are for what. So, you know, like, we're going to use Teams for this, we're going to use SharePoint for that, and then try to leverage some of these retention policies and other tools within the 365 space to help drive that governance, because not all of it's technical, some of it is process oriented, right? The latest Azure updates, cognitive services, blockchain, IoT hub. Let's see. So this one was talking about how cognitive services are really kind of taking a significant role there in call centers. So they're seeing, so through as an example, through a combination of text analytics APIs and speech APIs, calls can be converted to text with a speech API and then assessed by the sentiment analysis API for positive, negative, or neutral sentiment. So, you know, I saw a few demonstrations of cognitive services now, and really interesting as a developer how simple it is now to take some string of thing, pass it off to this service, and get a response back of full analysis, right? Like, boom, this is negative, here's the score, et cetera, et cetera. So real easy to consume those services nowadays, and include those in your data sets, right? So there's this, DevTest Labs offers a new shared image gallery feature that lets users access images from a shared location during the process of creating lab resources. What else? They manage global replication approach. What else? GitHub package registry. I haven't read much about that. Have you guys seen much on that? It offers a new way for developers to host container images and software packages ranging from JavaScript, NPM, Ruby gems. Kind of neat. It's not technology specific, like NPM is, you know, JavaScript packages, right? Or node packages. And then you've got Ruby gems, which is package management for Ruby gems. Anyways, GitHub package registry. Leak didn't work apparently, huh? Azure Microsoft updates introducing. Why is 404? Come on. Let's go take a look. Azure GitHub package registry. I didn't spell that right, but here we go. 404. Wow, look at that. The page is not working. Anyways, looks like GitHub's going to start to present a more universal or generic and general option for those package management needs. That's kind of neat. So anyways, that's a good look at some of the new Azure updates there. What else we got? Chromium Edge will add media autoplay blocker. This is interesting. So in Edge, with the, let's see here, what version was that? In July of last year, in that preview build, 17.713, they released a capability in Edge where it would block or allow you to configure or set some settings around blocking auto media play. So you could do it at the site level or globally. You could say block globally or just block it on when I hit this site, that kind of thing. So anyways, they're going to add that to the new Chromium based Edge. So that's pretty awesome. Good useful tool there to kind of clean up the experience as you navigate around. So that's all the top news stories today. Let's go check out some of the blogosphere stuff here. Not going to touch on it all, but we're going to jump into a couple of these. How to create an app catalog in SharePoint 2019. So if you haven't had a need to do that yet, it's probably because you haven't had to deploy any of the new SharePoint framework-based solutions. The app catalog is the deployment process, or the method, or I guess the administration side of how you deploy these packages that provide new SharePoint framework-based solutions. So here's a good article on how to go and provision an app catalog in your environment. I think this is an example on SharePoint 2019. So you just go to Central Admin, you create a new app catalog site. Pretty straightforward. Yep, and that's that. Bamboo Solutions announces a return to SP TechCon, so we will be booth 201 in Boston. If you're in the area and want to come hang out with us, we will be there. We do have discount codes if you're looking for a discount on your ticket. I think it's Bamboo19 is the code, and that'll get you, let's take a look real quick. That'll get you $200 off that ticket price. So check that out. There's the link, sptechcon.com. But this is on our blog, so feel free to go and check that out if you can't remember the code later. Or hit me up at sales@bamboosolutions.com and I'll get back to you. What else? Updating SharePoint managed account passwords on all farm layers, IIS, Windows services, and SharePoint services. I thought this was super cool. Back in my admin days, you know, those password policies that organizations enforce that just tended to, I don't know, break our service accounts. Anyways, this PowerShell script would have been nice. This does allow you to go and sort of automate some of that password management across your SharePoint farm and services. Using CSS variables to morph your SPFX design at runtime. I thought this was really interesting. So here we are with, what's her name, Julie? Julie was working through, sort of struggling with trying to dynamically change CSS, right, on the fly in a SharePoint framework particular project. So she walks us through a demo here where she's using React, a React-based SharePoint framework solution, and she was able to establish some CSS classes with variables in the SCSS side of it, right? But when she deployed it, what she was finding was that those static variables were those static values were just difficult to maintain in a dynamic fashion. And so what she did was she wrote her React component to include some style variables here, styles.linktiles and styles.tilecont. And then she had those classes defined in her CSS files, and she was able to interact with them in that way then. So cool little walkthrough there on CSS variables to sort of help with the design aspect of that. Grant permissions and trust SharePoint app automatically via PowerShell. I honestly have not had to do this, so I don't feel the pain here, if you will, or relate to it too much. But I guess there was some difficulty in sort of going through that app registration and granting of permissions programmatically. And so this guy here has seemed to have solved that problem and come up with a solution for that. So it looks like it's PowerShell based. So if you're looking for that kind of solution, there you go. Yep. What else? This was interesting too. I didn't know you could do this. So reactivating the option to create a team from the SharePoint team site. So if you haven't noticed lately, when you create a new site collection or site, I think it's site collection. Is it site collection or site? When we create a modern team site, we have the possibility to create with a simple click, since we have an Office 365 group, a team site, Microsoft Teams. Wow. Inside the Microsoft Teams. Okay, however, if that message was dismissed, so when you go and create a new modern team site, you're going to have this little pop-up window that says, hey, would you like to generate a Microsoft Teams group for this? And it only shows up once. So if you choose no, or any admin, according to David here, if any admin dismisses that menu, it will not be presented again. So later on, if you were like, man, Should have just done that. Should have created the team, because we're going to need that for that collaborative space. Well, now there's a way to work around that and re-provision that modal so you can select yes this time. So here's the PowerShell around how to do that. Boom. All right, so custom edit controls for SharePoint Framework Webparts. This was very interesting. So the edit panel for SharePoint Framework Webparts provides a new and consistent way to interact with users, right? And although the Microsoft has provided plenty of field types out of the box, we still need to build our own sometimes, and that's very true. So what if we wanted to do something like this, right? So he's talking about when you add a SharePoint Framework Webpart to a modern page, you have that little edit pencil icon there. Or you have in your properties pane, you have the ability to add controls over there to modify some of the data that may interact with the web part itself, right? The properties of the web part. So he's showing here how we can do some custom stuff there and have that reflect in the web part. So feed this sort of like a config, if you will, for some of the web part settings, right? So this is an example of that. Cool post. Super devy techy. What else? What's in that patch, June 2019? So talking about those CUs earlier and the security updates that have been released, SP Jeff here has gone and what he's done is put together a PDF document and he explains it in detail. So you can now kind of read this thing in a way that maybe applies to you and makes more sense to you specifically. Oh, hey, Ofex. Sorry about it. So what can you make with SharePoint? I never understood it. SharePoint is, it's really just a framework for which to build applications. It's an easy way for people that don't have developer skills to configure. I kind of like to summarize SharePoint to people that have never seen it before as like Excel in the browser. So you have these worksheets that can be on a web page and you can make your own columns, whatever you want. You can add as much data as you want. You can add some validation around that data. And then it's got all kinds of capabilities around that. So I can build relationships between those lists. I can automate some of them using workflows, using Microsoft Flow or some other product. So anyways, in a nutshell, SharePoint is, my consulting background comes from the side of it being somewhat of a framework to build apps on for organizations and enterprises. And that's, our space is all around extending that and making it awesome and helping customers realize the benefit of it and things like that. Yeah, no problem, dude. No problem at all. So anyways, today's stream is about the newsletter we put out, and it just covers all kinds of news around the SharePoint space. So yeah, this one was talking about SB Jeff. He puts out a PDF that really kind of details some of those cumulative updates that came out for SharePoint recently if you're in the on-prem installations. So check that out if you're an admin for SharePoint. Next one here, automating GDPR for on-premise SharePoint. I didn't really go into this one too much, but it does look like they've got a nice video here on how you can seamlessly operationalize your privacy requests. So if you're struggling in the GDPR space for on-prem SharePoint, that might apply to you and be of good use to you. How to replicate Office 365 group sites based on a template. This was interesting. I didn't know you could do this. So in SharePoint, you can actually save SharePoint sites as a template. So you go into a SharePoint site, you get it all set up, you put web parts where you want them, you add lists and libraries, and you configure the columns and the fields you want for those. And you can save all that as a template then and make new sites based on that template. Well, what's his name here? Greg has now shown us that you can do that for Office 365 groups as well. And if you don't know, 365 groups provision a SharePoint site. So you can go, once you create that, go to that SharePoint site, save it as a template. But then also, now when you go to provision a new SharePoint site based on that template you just made, there's a new option in the settings wheel up at the top of the SharePoint page, and that is to connect to a new Office 365 group. So really the process is you go get a SharePoint site the way you like it, save it as a template, go create a new site based on that template, and then you can connect it to a new group in Office 365 to get all that extra functionality and capability around that site and that topic area. So pretty neat. I didn't know you could do that. Getting pics to SharePoint from Power Apps is getting easier. Let's see what this is. I guess I skipped this one earlier. I don't remember reading this. He had a method for getting photos to SharePoint via a custom connector. For a long time, this was the best way to handle the all too common need of uploading media to SharePoint. Oh, okay, I got it. It was his most popular YouTube video too. So there are various methods. Thanks to a new feature in Power Apps, though, they have an easier way. We can now use the JSON function to encode media in Base64 and get Flow to process it. So you can add a picture control to a screen. So this is a Power App he's working in here. And if you're not familiar with that, it's one of the products on Office 365 that it pretty much allows, I guess, it caters to anyone that wants to build apps against Office 365 data. It even has like a builder in it and all kinds of tools to help you write code, but without writing code. Anyways, they call it the citizen developer, right? The guy who's interested but is not a full-on developer. This tool helps him do those kinds of things. So here he is working in Power Apps, and it looks like he's adding a picture control. He added a button to the screen and create a flow from it using the action menu. And a flow is a workflow. So it's a tool in Office 365 that lets you build workflows. So it'll do things like watch something for an action or trigger. And when that trigger occurs, you can tell it to go do something else with that data. So that's what flow does. So he's got a flow button there. And then here in the flow, he's parsing the JSON. He creates a file action from SharePoint or OneDrive. In this case, he used SharePoint. Okay. So he creates the file. So he's just showing his workflow design here to where in the app, you can use the picture control, upload your picture to it, then you click this button, and the button's going to start a Microsoft flow that takes that picture and sends it off to create a file in SharePoint. So pretty straightforward, pretty neat. I didn't know that there was a picture control for Microsoft Power Apps. Nice, nice, nice. Wondering which SharePoint deployment option is best. So if you're just now getting into the space and you have an organization that maintains a lot of their own infrastructure and hardware, you might be struggling with, should we install and set up our own infrastructure in-house so that we have full control, or should we go to SharePoint Online and use the more SaaS offered product from Microsoft? And then this kind of shows those pros and cons, it looks like. So if you're in that decision point now, it might be something to check out. Add a user as an admin on all associated SharePoint sites on a hub. What's it got here? Okay, so since the introduction of the hub sites, projects are done with this new structure. So adding a new user as an admin on each site of the hub will be very time consuming because you got to go navigate through that hierarchy of sites. So what he's showing here is a PowerShell command to sort of go out, crawl the site, the hub, and all of its sites, and then apply a user as an admin to all of those. So a nice little productivity hack for you if you're looking for that kind of thing. This guy wrote about using pagination with the SharePoint Search API. So it's just a quick down and dirty example of how to do that. Just a couple of lines of code here, but showing how you can get that pagination with those search results. How to install SharePoint 2019 step by step. This was really interesting. This is something that we used to do a lot back in the day before we had a whole bunch of cloud offered VM options. You used to have to build your own. And so originally when Hyper-V came out, us as server admins in the SharePoint space would stand up a server at home, get Hyper-V set up, and we would just go to town with creating VMs that could all talk to each other just so we could go through that process of installing and configuring SharePoint. And so here's a complete walkthrough. It looks like a 5-step process to install and configure Hyper-V, install Windows Server, Active Directory, domain services, SQL Server, and then SharePoint. So if you're new to that space and you're looking to get your hands dirty with some SharePoint administration and configuration, there you go. That's a really good, thorough post, it looks like. All right, guys, last but not least, all the SharePoint events that are going on in the space around the world. Here's what we're looking at. So we've got a bunch of SharePoint Saturdays. If you've never been to a SharePoint Saturday, it's pretty awesome. It's no pressure, no fee associated. You just show up and you attend. It's during a whole day, like 8 to 5. And you can go and just listen in. And people, MVPs in the industry and other influencers in the industry give sessions all day long. And so there's multiple sessions going on at each time slot, and you can choose to listen in on any of those topics. And they'll range from development to configuration administration to even other Office 365 products, like Microsoft Teams is a big one recently. Power Apps, all those things in that ecosystem, they give sessions on all day long, and so they're really good, especially if you're like in a 101 state, you know, and like maybe a noob or a beginner mode for SharePoint or even that space. Really good information there. They don't typically get too deep. For me, sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not like maybe 200, 300 level stuff, but I understand why. So anyways, SharePoint Saturdays going on. Get yourself to one. They're really good. It's a great way to shake hands too, and meet some of the guys in the industry. So Nashville, Paris, we got some in Madrid going on. We got Philadelphia, Beijing. I still don't know how to say that. Pune. I don't know. Vienna, New York City. You got one in Omaha, Charlotte, Lima. What else? We got Central Europe. Let me change this song. Not a big fan of that one. So also, outside of SharePoint Saturdays, we do have an Insider SharePoint 2019 conference highlights by Teresa Eller going on June 19th, so you can click on that and probably get into that one. We got an online Project Management Central webinar going on. I think that's, June 20th. That's next Thursday. I'll be giving that one, so if you want to register for that, there's a link on that page to get to it. What else? We got a list rollup demo going on the 27th. That's from me as well. And I think there's SharePoint Fest, in Seattle, August 19th through the 23rd. That's a big one. And then the SP TechCon in Boston, where we'll be at. So if you're going to come out to Boston, come see us, come shake our hand. I think Rob will be there. And we can get you a discount ticket, like I said earlier. So hook it up. Come out. It's a great time. Good sessions there as well. But that one is a cost. So SP TechCon, I think, let's take a look. It's not super cheap, but like I said, we do have that $200 discount, and then you might be able to get your organization to pay for your ticket to get there and to get in. So it's got conferences and sessions, and it's a big list of speakers that usually attend these things. Some of the best in the industry. So yeah, boy, get some. All right, guys, that's the end of the weekly newsletter roundup. I think I'm gonna jump off for the day. I got to get some emails out. I got a couple of calls this afternoon and get ready for this weekend. Yeah, boy. Thank you all for jumping on today. Appreciate it. I will be back on Wednesday. We'll be doing actually, will I be on here? Yeah, I'll be on Wednesday. So Wednesday we're going to do... Excuse me, guys. Wednesday we're going to stream the prep for the webinar on the following Thursday. So I'm going to do a setup for PMC, the Project Management Central app. So if you come hang out with me on Wednesday at noon, please do. I'd love to have somebody to hang out with and chat with. Otherwise, see y'all then. Y'all have a great weekend. Peace out.